NHS may offer weight loss jabs over the counter at pharmacies. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. If you see fucking Hedy Slimane skinny Aggie soon, don't ask no questions. Don't ask no questions if you start seeing my cheekbones. Don't ask no questions if you see my cheekbones. If you see me with my fucking Alton Mason sucked in cheeks, do not ask any questions. Don't ask me any fucking questions, because this is a madness. It's claimed that drugs like Ozempic could be available after a short consultation for as low as £9.90. Jesus Christ, let's go. Let's read this now, because I think with Ozempic, if I'm not mistaken, you can only get it. I don't know if you get it through NHS even. I think you can only get it through like private clinics and shit, right? So you pay a lot of money for it. So only the people that have access to private clinics or whatever healthcare will get access to it. The moment this hits the NHS, the moment this becomes available at your local pharmacy and you can get a prescription for it for £9.90, you're going to see so many people in the hood, so many people in ends, anyone that lives in the UK. Don't be surprised when you see a ton of people that live near you suddenly becoming skinny. This shit is going to hit the streets hard. If Ozempic gets passed in the NHS and becomes available on prescription for £9.90, everybody in your area that you knew was fat will be fat no more. I guarantee you. Patients will be able to get a weight loss injection from pharmacies according to reports. It's claimed that drugs such as Ozempic, Mounjaro could be available over the counter after a short consultation at the cost of an NHS prescription. That's fucking amazing, by the way. I love that. I love that. This would broaden access to the jabs considerably, as health services currently restrict injections to those regarded as having the highest clinical need. Okay, so you can get it from the NHS, but you have to be supremely overweight. But I guess in this regard, maybe if you have some trouble maintaining your weight or whatever, you can find a way to kind of figure it out. Let's play this clip, Coach of Sky News.
If you want to grasp the sheer scale of what's happening with weight loss drugs in Britain, there is no better place to come than the distribution hub for one of the 3 biggest companies selling them online. Here they are shipping them to 400 patients every hour. Since Wegovy was launched a little over a year ago, they have supplied 200,000 patients. Collectively, they have lost 600 tons of body weight. That's roughly the same as 400 family cars. Now, the private sector ships to 95% of all the patients on the drugs in the UK. The NHS has only a tiny share of the market. They've really struggled to roll these out to patients. So people are paying around £150 a month, either for Wegovy or the new drug Mounjaro.
That's not too bad, isn't it? So you can pay $150 a month via private healthcare on this, like, what's this website, to get like a monthly amount of Wegovy. That's not too bad, £100. But I guess if you can get it for £9.90 on NHS, that's a big difference. But £100 a month for a weight loss drug is not that bad. I thought it was way more than that.
Mounjaro is slightly more effective. Patients lose around 20% of their body weight in a matter of months, but still Wegovy is better suited for some patients. But together they are completely changing the way we see obesity. Rates may actually have peaked. They've plateaued already, partly because of public health measures like the sugar tax, but the belief is that so many people are now taking effective drugs that rates could start to decline perhaps as soon as this year, and that would be a significant change for the UK.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens, man. I'm curious to see what happens when it does become available via the NHS, because obviously it's going to have, it's going to be available to way more people, because there's a part of me that feels like in the area that I live in, where I'm surrounded by like Paddy Powers and like chicken shops and kebab shops and Icelands and shit and, Greg's and whatever it may be, there's a part of me that feels like people around here who are fat will take something like something like an Ozempic, and they still will beat it. Like fucking Wings of Redemption, they would beat Ozempic. I think there's some people in this area, or there's some people just in general in life, who would somehow find a way to not make Ozempic work for them. They'll still eat their way through it. I think they would. I don't think it'd work on a lot of people. I think some people would actually be annoyed or be offended of the feeling of not being hungry, because I think that's one of the things, right? It's like an appetite suppressant, so you end up not wanting to eat as much. There'll be a lot of people that'll be angry that they're not feeling as hungry, because they want to eat fried chicken, they want to eat pizzas and shit. So I'm curious to see if in some areas it doesn't actually work. People think it's gonna work, but there are some people who are so hell-bent intent on eating like shit, on just, you know, enjoying themselves and indulging themselves, that they just will find a way to make this miracle drug that works for most people not work for them. At the moment, there's a 2-year waiting list for Wegovy on the NHS. Last year, research by Sky News showed that the rollout is happening far more slowly than planned. Oh yeah, by the way, that's what I've got to say. That's a good point, because I've noticed, for those of you that buy multivitamins on particular platforms, messaging apps and darknet, you will know this as well. Am I the only person that's noticed an increase in the amount of sellers who sell adult multivitamins for party fun, who are also now selling stuff like Ozempic? I've seen a ton of them. Not too sure if they're legit, not sure if they're fucking, you know, fake or whatever they are, but I've seen a ton of people who are selling Manjaro, Wegovy, Ozempic stuff, like, who also sell adult multivitamin party drugs. That's like a thing. I've noticed it. Like there's like a prescription tab. There's like a prescription drugs tab, and it's pretty big. And you know, Ozempic sort of stuff is really big now. I've seen a lot of people buying it, and I've seen reviews. So people are saying, "Oh, this is really good. Thank you for the dose." It's like, wow. So there's such a demand for this drug that people are buying it on the darknet. You know, it's fucking wild, absolutely wild. Because you imagine, there's definitely somebody out there that's fucking mixing vinegar with water. You know, you gotta be careful about that. Like, there's definitely some unscrupulous piece of shit drug dealer that's fucking putting vinegar and water into a syringe and then selling it to you like that as like being Ozempic, which is insane. Or some like natural remedy, because I'm sure there's some sort of natural herbal thing alternative that is a suppressant. So like, what's that tea? I think there's a tea, right? There's a tea that I think Korean people drink that's meant to be a appetite suppressant. So it won't surprise me if those motherfuckers will take that tea and put that in a syringe or something and then sell that to you as Ozempic, and it's not Ozempic. Thousands of people with severe obesity have been denied access to the treatment, with doctors previously claiming that the soul-destroying postcode lottery has emerged. According to the Daily Mail, multi-pound deal for the pilot scheme will be struck with a pharmaceutical firm with a view of issuing prescriptions through chemists and health centres. They would be priced at £9.90, the same as an NHS prescription, and subsequently less than the $150 a month cost obtaining these privately. Fucking crazy, man. So let's see how it works out. Like I said, I think there are some people that are gonna battle their way through Ozempic, but I'm curious to see how it hits areas, because if it does well, and areas like myself, like areas that I live in, which is one of the poorest boroughs in London, that tend to have a lot of, you know, fast food chains, it'll be interesting to see how that affects the fast food shops, you know? Like, imagine if Ozempic becomes popular or becomes readily available in NHS, people start taking it, and then those same people that go to Nando's or go to Dixie's or go to fucking kebab shops, Chinese's, Indians all the time, start to not go anymore. What then happens to those shops? What then happens to the local economy that I live amongst? You know what I mean? What happens to those stores? What happens to these businesses? Like, I'm curious to see how that kind of evolves and develops. But the report's being described as speculative, with health experts warning obesity drugs must only be used under medical supervision by those who are eligible. Shut up. The government spokesperson said, as the government shifts the NHS from sickness to prevention, we'll be looking across the board at how these drugs can be made available to more people who can benefit from them. The NHS is already tackling obesity in innovative ways, including through community care models and digital technologies to help deliver these drugs as part of a rounded care package. Previous estimates from the National Institute of Healthcare have suggested that 3.4 million people in England could benefit from weight loss. Wow. There's 3.4 million people who are categorized as obese in this country. 3.4 million. No way that's true. Surely that's not true. Because who else, if they mean benefit from weight loss injections, do they mean just people in general, if you're like technically overweight BMI wise, or do they mean if you're obese? Because that's a crazy amount. 3.4 million people in England are fat to the point where obesity drugs will be beneficial. Jesus. But last December, NIC said that the jabs would only be available to 220,000 patients in NHS in the first 3 years, meaning millions of others could end up waiting 12 years for the treatment. Studies can show. Okay, let's see this guy. What's this guy saying?
It's just a slow, painful process.
Ken needs to lose 5 stones.
But I get to see my family all the way up the stairs, which helps make it a bit more bearable.
For Ken, every step is painful. He needs a double knee replacement, but at 25 stone, he's considered too high risk to have surgery.
Wow. I did not know that. Sorry for my naivete. I did not know that if you're a certain weight, you can't have certain surgeries. So he needs to have a double knee replacement because he's walking with a cane. He's clearly struggling to walk. But he can't get the operation because he's too fat. Holy shit. But then he can't lose the weight because he's fat. Wow. Okay, I didn't know that was a thing. That's fucking wild.
And you can see I'm huffing and puffing just for coming up that.
He's been told to lose 5 stone to have the operation, but that's difficult in his condition.
I hate the fact that I can't even go for a walk with my grandkids now. I've made lifestyle changes. I eat sensibly. I don't eat big crazy.
All right, Ken. Come on, Unc. Come on, Granddad. Come on, Granddad. Come on, man. You don't get that size because you eat sensibly. Why does every fat person say that? Myself included. I've said that in the past. What is it with fat people and an inability to just admit you are fat because you eat a lot? Why does every person say, oh, I don't even eat that much actually. I'm actually only fat because of like soda and like fizzy pop and shit. I don't actually eat that much. Like, what? How did you get that fat then? Come on, Ken.
Meals. I think the biggest issue is my knees are kind of wrecked now, and a diet doesn't really work if you don't balance it with sensible exercise. That's
not true. That's not true. I lost weight once purely from just cutting out from just watching my macros. You can lose a bunch of weight. It takes much longer, but you can lose a bunch of weight from just cutting out certain food and having a more restrictive diet. He just doesn't want to do it because it's boring. You know what I mean? I get it. I understand Ken's dilemma. In Ken's dilemma, he can't, his knees are fucked up. But then if you're overweight and your knees are fucked up and you can't move around too much, the only joy that you're going to get out of life is eating, because you can't really go anywhere. So imagine if you can't go anywhere, but then you're like making yourself eat like, boiled chicken and fucking vegetables and shit and white rice. You're not going to be enjoying life too much. So I understand why he's in this predicament, but let's not lie and say you can't lose weight from just not exercising. If you do watch your diet and you do get things into some level of normalcy, you can lose a bunch of weight from not working out. It's going to take much longer, but it's obviously harder too if you're just sat on your ass all day.
Last hope was the weight loss drug Wegovy, the only way he'd slim down enough to get his knees fixed and his old life back.
So this is the actual referral form.
The GP confirmed he was eligible and referred him to the specialist hospital clinic.
I thought that would be opening the door to let me get access to the drug.
Then back came a text.
Currently our waiting list is around 2 years and we are unable to offer medication. If you no longer want this referral, please contact us. It's all shocking, isn't it?
That's crazy, man. That's fucking crazy. Big up fucking Ken. Studies show people on average lose 15% of their body weight within months of starting treatment with Wegovy. The drug mimics a natural hormone and people feel fuller, faster for longer. Obesity costs the NHS $6 billion a year and it's linked to 200 different diseases. Half of obese people with related problems such as high blood pressure and diabetes die within 10 years. Yeah, I'm assuming it's worth the risk for a lot of people, isn't it? A lot of people are probably on death's door. A lot of people who are obese probably have no ability, no willingness, no desire to lose weight the conventional way. They are, already bad as it is. The only option for them is to take this drug. That's the only way that they're going to be able to reverse any of the, bad decisions they've done over the years for making themselves that fat. Even if the side effects are bad too, they're willing to take that risk. I understand. You know what I mean? If you're that fat, especially him, like double knee, that's got to fucking hurt. All right. However, he's damaged himself, whether he's got fucked up knees because of his weight, or he's got the fucked up knees, because that could be also an issue where he was never that fat before. Maybe he fucked up his knees, then he got fat. You know what I mean? By not being able to move around a lot and shit, and living a somewhat sedentary lifestyle maybe led him to kind of pile on the pounds. So it's pretty difficult from that position to suddenly start eating healthily and working out when you're in pain all the time. You can't really move too well. And you've also got into the habit of just eating poorly over time. So I get why these drugs can help those people like that. So it's a real shame that people that actually need them, like this Ken guy, can't get access to them. But you're a celebrity, right? Somebody that's wanting to go to a fucking fashion show or something can get a hold of it and lose a bunch of weight to appear, you know, at a fucking festival or on a red carpet. But the people that actually need it, to just do their daily lives and shit, and to kind of be a, you know, to kind of move around and have a somewhat fulfilling life, can't get a hold of it. That's a really heartbreaking thing. So I'm hoping this story is true and it does get rolled out to the NHS, because it'll allow people, regular folks like Ken, to be able to get the fucking jab and lose a bunch of weight and maybe get some semblance of control and autonomy back with their lives and shit. So fingers crossed the NHS does go through with it. Fingers crossed the NHS does go through with it.